On a scorching Thursday afternoon in Dubai Marina, a maintenance worker discovered something that would expose the dark underbelly of the UAE's glittering nightlife scene. Half submerged in the private wine cellar of a luxury penthouse at Princess Tower, a woman's body lay eerily posed, elegant, serene, and unmistakably dead. The victim, a 25-year-old Filipina woman named Rowena Estrella, staff member at Dubai's most exclusive nightclub, Obsidian Noir. But this wasn't a simple workplace tragedy. This was the culmination of a pattern 7 years in the making, where social media posts became evidence, obsession transformed into surveillance, and one woman's courage would expose a predator hiding behind wealth and power. What you're about to witness is a story that crosses borders, destroys families, and reveals how modern technology can turn love into a weapon. A story where encrypted files become insurance policies, where luxury gifts carry invisible chains, and where a young woman from a quiet town in Batangas would outsmart a billionaire, even in death. Before we dive into this shocking tale, if you haven't already, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. We bring you the most compelling crime stories from around the world, and your support helps us continue this important work. Meet Rowena Estrella. Born November 12, 1998, in Lipa City, Batangas, Philippines, in a home where concrete blocks showed through cracked paint and the tin roof rattled with every monsoon. Her father, Roberto Estrella, drove a tricycle for 12 hours daily, navigating the chaotic streets of Lipa for fares that barely covered rice and utilities. Her mother, Elena, took in laundry from wealthier neighbors, her hands perpetually wrinkled from soap water, her back bent from scrubbing other people's clothes. They lived in a 20-square-meter rented house that cost 3,500 pesos monthly, a sum that often required choosing between electricity and food. Rowena had one treasure in this world of scarcity: her younger sister, Bianca. For years younger, Bianca possessed the same sharp mind and gentle heart. But where Rowena learned early to harden herself against disappointment, Bianca still believed the world could be kind. The sisters shared a single bed, whispered dreams in the darkness, and promised each other that someday, somehow, they would escape the cycle of poverty that had trapped their parents. Everything changed on a rainy Tuesday in March 2010. Rowena was 11 years old, sitting in her grade 6 classroom at Lipa City Science Integrated School, when the principal called her out. Her father had been hit by a delivery truck while waiting for passengers at the downtown terminal. The truck driver, who had been texting while driving, dragged Roberto's tricycle 15 meters before realizing what had happened. Roberto Estrella died 3 days later at Mary Mediatrix Medical Center, leaving behind 180,000 pesos in medical bills, more money than the family had seen in their entire lives. Rowena watched her mother beg loan sharks who charged 5% interest weekly, beg relatives who closed their doors, beg the hospital for mercy that never came. 11-year-old Rowena made 2 promises that week. First, Bianca would never experience this humiliation. Second, Rowena would never, ever beg again. She would do whatever necessary, work any job, make any sacrifice, cross any ocean, but she would control her own fate. Despite crushing poverty, Rowena excelled academically. She graduated high school as valedictorian in 2016, delivering a speech about resilience that made teachers cry, and earned her acceptance to the University of the Philippines Diliman for political science. It was the golden ticket her family had prayed for. But golden tickets still require money for dormitories, textbooks, and daily meals. Rowena enrolled, worked night shifts at a call center in Quezon City handling American insurance claims, attended morning classes on 3 hours of sleep, and collapsed from exhaustion after 1 semester. The university said she could return when she could afford to focus on studies. That day never came. By 2020, at age 22, Rowena had spent 4 years working dead-end jobs in Manila, retail sales, restaurant service, call centers, sending every spare peso home to keep Bianca in school and their mother fed. When COVID-19 devastated the Philippine economy, Rowena made the decision millions of Filipinas had made before her. She would go abroad. She researched destinations. Singapore's labor laws were strong, but work permits nearly impossible for women without skills. Hong Kong paid well but required years of domestic service. Dubai, however, offered something different. Tourist visas were easy to obtain. The Filipino community was enormous, and cash-paying jobs were everywhere for those willing to work illegally. In October 2020, Rowena boarded Emirates Flight 384 from Manila to Dubai with a 60-day tourist visa, 8,000 pesos in her pocket, and a phone number for a cousin who had worked in Dara for 3 years. Her plan was simple. Find under-the-table work, send money home for 6 months, return to the Philippines before authorities noticed her overstay, and repeat the cycle. Her mother cried at Ninoy Aquino International Airport. Bianca, now 18 and studying nursing at Batangas State University on a partial scholarship, hugged her sister and whispered, "Come home safe, 8. Rowena promised she would. Dubai in 2020 was a city of contradictions. Glass towers pierced the sky while laborers slept 20 to a room in Sonipur. Emirati women in designer abayas shopped at Dubai Mall while domestic workers hand-washed their clothes in apartment bathrooms. Rowena's cousin, Maritz, had arranged her first job, waitress at a small Filipino restaurant in Karama, earning 2,000 dirhams monthly, cash, no questions asked. Rowena worked 14-hour days, slept on a mattress in Marit's shared apartment with 4 other Filipinas, and sent home 1,500 dirhams every month. She kept 500 for rent, food, and the cheapest mobile phone plan she could find. After 6 months, Rowena's tourist visa expired. Overstaying in the UAE carried serious penalties: fines, detention, deportation, blacklisting from Gulf countries. Maritz knew a document forger in Dara who could create fake visa stamps for 500 dirhams. Rowena paid, understanding she was now truly illegal, truly vulnerable, and truly at the mercy of employers who knew she couldn't report abuse without risking arrest. By mid-2021, Rowena had worked at 3 restaurants, 1 cleaning company, and a salon, each job ending when the employer discovered her visa status and either fired her or tried to leverage her desperation into accepting lower wages or worse conditions. Then, in August 2021, Maritz told her about Obsidian Noir. High-end nightclub, European-owned, pays 3,500 dirhams monthly for servers, plus tips that could double your salary, Maritz explained. But Rowena, be careful. The owner has a reputation. When Rowena asked what kind of reputation, Maritz hesitated. He likes Filipinas, pretty ones, young ones. He helps them visa sponsorships, education funds, apartments. But nothing is free in Dubai. You understand. Rowena understood perfectly. But 3,500 dirhams meant Bianca could focus on studies instead of part-time work. It meant her mother could stop taking in laundry. It meant control. She submitted her application the next day. Obsidian Noir occupied 3 floors of a building in Dubai Marina, overlooking the glittering waterway where yachts worth millions bobbed in the Arabian Gulf breeze. The club's entrance featured black marble, gold accents, and doormen in suits who checked membership cards against an exclusive database. Inside, the main floor held a dance area with a DJ booth, VIP tables arranged in semicircles where bottles of champagne cost 2,000 dirhams, and a bar backlit with purple lights. The second floor contained private rooms for special guests, businessmen who needed discretion, celebrities avoiding paparazzi, and locals who wanted to drink alcohol away from judgmental eyes. The third floor was management offices, a small kitchen, and the owner's private penthouse suite. Viktor Hale had built Obsidian Noir from oil money and privilege. The application paperwork asked for basic information, name, age, contact number, but also included a photograph requirement. Rowena submitted a simple selfie taken in good lighting. She was beautiful in an understated way. High cheekbones, long dark hair, eyes that could appear innocent or knowing depending on her mood, and a smile that didn't quite reach those eyes. She had learned early that beauty could be a weapon or a curse, depending on who wielded it. The interview took place on a Tuesday afternoon, August 17, 2021, in a sterile conference room where Melissa Torres, the Filipino HR manager, reviewed Rowena's application with practiced efficiency. Melissa was 34, had worked at Obsidian Noir for 6 years, and carried herself with the wary competence of someone who had seen too much. Your visa is expired, Melissa said flatly, not looking up from the papers. Rowena's stomach dropped. This was the moment employers usually called security or worse, immigration authorities. But Melissa simply sighed. Mr. Hale prefers to handle visa sponsorships internally for the right candidates. You would work as floor staff initially, serving drinks, managing VIP sections, ensuring guests are satisfied. The pay is what we advertised. But Rowena, Melissa finally looked up, her expression serious. The boss likes to mentor pretty staff. Keep your head down, save your money, and get out in 6 months. That's my advice. Take it or leave it. Rowena took it. She started work 3 days later, wearing the required uniform. Black dress, heels, hair pulled back elegantly, minimal makeup. The first week passed without incident. She learned the floor layout, memorized drink prices, mastered the art of being attentive without being intrusive. The clientele was exactly what she expected. Wealthy Emirati men entertaining business associates, European expats celebrating promotions, Russian tourists spending money like water, and the occasional celebrity who arrived through the private entrance to avoid attention. Rowena was good at the job. She had the gift of making powerful people feel seen without making them feel pursued, the skill of anticipating needs before they were voiced, and most importantly, the discipline of making herself disappear into the background when necessary. Viktor Hale first noticed Rowena during her second week, though she didn't realize it at the time. He watched from the third-floor office window as she handled a difficult customer, a drunk British banker who had grabbed her wrist when she delivered his champagne. Rowena had smiled, gently extracted her wrist, said something that made the man laugh and release her, then reported the incident to security without drama or tears. Viktor noted her name on the staff roster. He asked Melissa for Rowena's file. When Melissa hesitated, Viktor simply looked at her, and Melissa handed over the folder. Inside, Viktor discovered everything he needed to know. Rowena Estrella, 25 years old, from Batangas, expired tourist visa, family in the Philippines, younger sister in university. Vulnerable, desperate, perfect. Viktor's approach was calculated. He didn't rush. During Rowena's third week, he appeared on the floor during a quiet Tuesday afternoon when most staff were preparing for evening service. He introduced himself simply as Viktor, the owner, conducting routine check-ins with new employees. He asked how she was adjusting, if she felt comfortable, if she had any concerns. His manner was professional, friendly, unthreatening. Rowena answered honestly. She enjoyed the work, appreciated the pay, hoped to stay long-term if possible. Viktor nodded thoughtfully. Your visa situation must be stressful, he said casually. I have lawyers who handle sponsorship applications regularly. If you're interested in becoming legal, I could arrange that. It would give you stability, peace of mind. Rowena's heart raced. Legal status meant freedom from constant fear of police checkpoints. It meant not having to hide. That would change everything, she admitted. Viktor smiled warmly. Let me see what I can do. You're clearly a dedicated worker. I take care of people who are loyal to me. The following Monday, Melissa called Rowena into the office. Spread across the desk were documents, visa application forms, medical examination appointments, Emirates ID paperwork, and an employment contract. The salary remained 3,500 dirhams, but the contract included visa sponsorship, medical insurance, and, Rowena's eyes widened, accommodation in a studio apartment in Discovery Gardens, one of Dubai's residential communities. Mr. Hale approved everything, Melissa explained, her tone carefully neutral. You'll sign a 2-year contract. During that period, your visa is tied to Obsidian Noir employment. If you leave before the contract ends, the visa is cancelled immediately. Understand? Rowena understood. She was trading one form of vulnerability for another. But this vulnerability came with legal protection, health insurance, and a real bed in a real apartment. She signed. What Rowena didn't notice, buried in page 7 of the 12-page employment contract, was a clause in small print. Employee agrees to maintain confidentiality regarding all aspects of employer's business operations and personal affairs. Breach of confidentiality constitutes grounds for immediate termination and legal action. She also didn't notice that the apartment Viktor provided was owned through a shell company registered in his name, that the building's security system fed directly to a server Viktor controlled, or that the smartphone Viktor gave her as a welcome gift, a brand new iPhone 13 Pro, came pre-installed with software that would let him read every message, track every location, and listen to every conversation. Viktor Hale wasn't offering help. He was building a cage, and Rowena had just walked inside, smiling, grateful, and completely unaware that she had become his latest acquisition. The cage tightened slowly, so gradually that Rowena didn't realize she was trapped until the door had already locked behind her. October 2021 marked the beginning of what Viktor would later call their professional relationship, and what Rowena would eventually recognize as systematic grooming designed to create dependency, isolation, and control. It started with simple kindness, the kind that feels like salvation when you've spent years drowning. Viktor's first gift beyond the apartment and phone was a promotion. 6 weeks after Rowena signed her contract, Melissa called her upstairs to Viktor's office. A sprawling space on the 3rd floor with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Dubai Marina, leather furniture that probably cost more than Rowena's family home, and abstract art that she didn't understand but recognized as expensive. Viktor sat behind a massive desk, dressed in a tailored navy suit that fit him perfectly, his salt and pepper hair styled with product, his British accent polished from years at Oxford. He was 41 years old but looked younger, maintained by personal trainers and dermatologists and the kind of healthcare only serious money could buy. "Rowena, sit please." Viktor gestured to the chair across from him. His manner was friendly, relaxed, as if they were old colleagues rather than employer and employee separated by continents of privilege. "I've been reviewing staff performance metrics, and your numbers are exceptional. Customer satisfaction scores, tip percentages, 0 complaints. You understand how to work with high-value clients." He leaned forward slightly, his blue eyes focused entirely on her. "I'd like to offer you a position as my personal assistant for VIP events. You would coordinate with our exclusive membership clients, manage private bookings for the 2nd floor suites, handle special requests. The salary would increase to 5,000 dirhams monthly, plus performance bonuses." 5,000 dirhams meant Rowena could send home 3,000 and still live comfortably. It meant Bianca could focus entirely on her nursing degree without working part-time at the hospital cafeteria. It meant her mother could finally rest. "I accept," Rowena said immediately. Viktor smiled. "Excellent. You'll start next week. I'll have Melissa arrange your new schedule and work phone. One more thing." He slid an envelope across the desk. Inside was 5,000 dirhams in cash. "Signing bonus. Buy yourself something nice. You'll be representing Obsidian Noir at high-profile events. First impressions matter." That evening, Rowena sent 3,000 dirhams home through remittance and used 1,000 to buy professional clothes, tailored dresses, heels that didn't hurt after 8 hours, a leather portfolio for taking notes. She kept 1,000 in savings, her emergency fund growing slowly. She called Bianca on WhatsApp video, and her sister's face filled the screen, beaming. You're glowing. Dubai is good for you," Bianca exclaimed. Rowena laughed. For the first time in her life, she felt like maybe, just maybe, things were working out. The pattern established itself over the following months. November brought Rowena's first VIP event, a private birthday party for a Russian oligarch who rented the entire 2nd floor, spent 40,000 dirhams on champagne, and tipped Rowena 2,000 dirhams personally for ensuring his guests were entertained. Viktor was present that night, observing from the periphery, and afterward pulled Rowena aside. "You were perfect, professional, discreet, efficient. This is exactly why I promoted you." He handed her an additional 5,000 dirhams. "Performance bonus. You've earned it." December brought more events, more bonuses, and Viktor's increasing presence in Rowena's work life. He began calling her directly to discuss client preferences, event logistics, and staffing decisions. The calls came at all hours, 9 p.m. when she was eating dinner in her apartment, midnight when she was falling asleep, 2 a.m. when she was deep in dreams. Viktor always apologized for the late hour, claimed he was working across time zones, thought of a detail that couldn't wait. Rowena answered every call because Viktor was her boss, her visa sponsor, and the man who had transformed her life from desperate to stable. January 2022 brought the first blur of professional boundaries. Viktor invited Rowena to a networking dinner at Nobu, the upscale Japanese restaurant at Atlantis the Palm, where entrees cost 300 dirhams and the view overlooked the Arabian Gulf. "Bring your best dress," Viktor had said. "I need you to meet some potential investors. Your presence will demonstrate our commitment to excellence." Rowena borrowed a black cocktail dress from a Filipina friend who worked in luxury retail. At the boutique where her friend worked, the dress cost 2,800 dirhams, more than Rowena used to earn in a month. The dinner included 4 guests, 2 Emirati businessmen interested in opening a similar nightclub in Abu Dhabi, and their British financial advisor. Viktor introduced Rowena as "my invaluable right hand," and "the reason Obsidian Noir runs flawlessly." Throughout the meal, Viktor subtly demonstrated ownership, placing his hand on the small of Rowena's back when introducing her, refilling her wine glass before she could do it herself, steering conversation topics to highlight her intelligence and discretion. The Emirati investors were impressed. After dinner, as they walked to the valet, one said to Viktor, "You choose your team well, Habibi. She is an asset." Viktor smiled. "The best investment I've ever made." In the car ride back to Discovery Gardens, Viktor handed Rowena another envelope. Inside was 10,000 dirhams. "You represented me beautifully tonight," he said simply. Rowena stared at the money. This was more than 2 months' salary at her old wage. "Viktor, this is too much." He cut her off gently. "You're worth it. Don't argue." He reached across the center console and squeezed her hand briefly. The touch lasted 3 seconds too long, and Rowena felt something shift in the air between them. She withdrew her hand and stared out the window for the rest of the drive, suddenly aware that she had crossed an invisible line and didn't know how to step back. February brought more gifts. "A Cartier bracelet, for your birthday," Viktor said, though her birthday wasn't until November. "Think of it as an early celebration." The bracelet cost 15,000 dirhams. Rowena wore it to work, and the other staff noticed immediately. Melissa pulled her aside during a break. "Rowena, be careful," she warned quietly. "Viktor's generosity always comes with expectations. I've seen this pattern before." When Rowena asked what she meant, Melissa just shook her head. 12 girls before you. They all started like this: promotions, gifts, special treatment. It ended badly for every single one. But Viktor continued to be perfect. He never propositioned her sexually, never made inappropriate comments, never touched her beyond professional courtesy. He was simply generous, attentive, interested in her opinions, supportive of her ambitions. He asked about Bianca's studies and sent an additional 5,000 dirhams for her textbooks. He asked about her mother's health and arranged for a private doctor consultation via telemedicine when Elena complained of back pain. He was building a web of obligations so subtle that Rowena didn't recognize the threads until they were already wrapped around her wrists. March 2022 brought the first explicit crossing of lines. Late one Thursday night, after closing a successful event that earned Obsidian Noir 60,000 dirhams in a single evening, Viktor asked Rowena to join him in his office for a debrief. The office was empty, the club silent below them, the Dubai skyline glittering through the windows. Viktor poured 2 glasses of expensive whiskey, Macallan 18, for 100 dirhams per glass in a bar, and handed one to Rowena. "To the best assistant I've ever had," he toasted. They talked about the event, about future plans for the club, about Viktor's vision for expansion into Abu Dhabi and eventually Saudi Arabia when the kingdom fully opened its entertainment sector. Then the conversation shifted. Viktor talked about his marriage, a loveless arrangement to an American heiress named Clarissa who lived permanently in New York and hadn't visited Dubai in 18 months. "We married for business connections," Viktor admitted, his voice carrying practiced vulnerability. "Her family's political ties, my wealth. But there's no love, no companionship. I'm surrounded by people every day and utterly alone." He looked at Rowena directly. "Until I met you, you're different. You see me as a person, not just a bank account." Rowena should have left, should have excused herself, maintained boundaries, remembered Melissa's warning. But Viktor had been nothing but kind for 6 months. He had given her stability, legal status, financial security, and a future. And sitting in that office, with expensive whiskey warming her chest and Viktor's blue eyes focused on her like she was the most important person in the world, Rowena felt something she hadn't felt in years, valued. Not for her labor, but for herself. When Viktor leaned across the space between them and kissed her, Rowena didn't pull away. The affair began that night and established its own rhythm quickly. Late-night meetings in Viktor's office after the club closed. Weekend trips to Abu Dhabi and Ras Al Khaimah disguised as business conferences, where they stayed in 5-star hotels and never left the room. Expensive dinners at restaurants where privacy was guaranteed. Viktor was attentive, passionate, and generous in ways Rowena had never experienced. He bought her designer clothes, Zimmermann dresses, Chanel bags, Christian Louboutin heels. He paid for her mother's back surgery in the Philippines, 150,000 pesos that would have taken Rowena years to save. He increased Bianca's education fund, fully covering tuition and expenses at 8 Neo when Bianca transferred to the more prestigious university. But the gifts came with invisible strings. The apartment Viktor provided? He had a key. Rowena came home one Tuesday in April to find him sitting in her living room, having let himself in with his fingerprint access to the building's biometric lock. "I wanted to surprise you," he explained, gesturing to the expensive dinner he'd ordered from Table 9, her favorite restaurant. Rowena forced a smile, ignored the violation of privacy, and told herself this was what relationships looked like when one partner was significantly wealthier. The iPhone he'd given her? Viktor admitted casually in May that he had installed Find My Friends for her safety. "Dubai is generally safe, but I worry about you," he said. What he didn't mention was the additional spyware, FlexiSpy, a surveillance application that cost $399 annually and gave him access to every text message, every email, every photo, and even the ability to activate her microphone remotely. Rowena discovered this in June when her phone glitched during a call with Bianca, and a small recording icon appeared in the corner of her screen. She Googled the icon and found forums discussing spyware detection. Her blood ran cold as she scrolled through warnings about abusive partners using surveillance technology. She checked her phone's settings, found suspicious apps running in the background, and realized Viktor had been reading her private conversations for months. Every text to Bianca, every email home, every Google search, every conversation with other Filipina staff. He knew everything. That night, Rowena went to a mall, bought a cheap Android phone with cash, and started using it for any communication she wanted private. She kept the iPhone for work, texting Viktor back immediately whenever he messaged, performing normalcy while secretly building an escape plan. Because by June, Rowena had started to recognize the pattern Melissa warned about. She noticed Viktor's attention intensifying when she talked to male customers. She noticed his questions about her schedule on days off. She noticed his casual comments about her clothes. "That dress is too revealing for work," or "I prefer when you wear your hair down." She noticed how he framed every gift and gesture as proof of his love while simultaneously making her feel guilty for not being sufficiently grateful. "I pay your sister's tuition, your mother's medical bills, your rent, and you can't even answer my call immediately?" He snapped once when she didn't respond to his text within 5 minutes. The explosion came in July. Rowena's period was 2 weeks late. She confided in Viktor, terrified and uncertain. His reaction was immediate panic, not joy. "You're on birth control, right?" he demanded. When Rowena admitted she wasn't, the pills made her nauseous. Viktor became cold. "This can't happen. A pregnancy would complicate everything." He took her immediately to a private clinic in Jumeirah, where a doctor performed a pregnancy test. Negative. Rowena felt relief. Viktor felt control slipping and tightened his grip. The doctor, clearly receiving payment from Viktor, strongly recommended an IUD insertion. When Rowena hesitated, Viktor's eyes hardened. "Do you want Bianca to finish university? Do you want your mother to stay healthy? Then stop being difficult." Rowena refused the IUD. For 3 days, Viktor didn't contact her. Then, on the 4th day, An envelope appeared under her apartment door. Inside was a printed copy of Bianca's scholarship agreement from the foundation Viktor controlled. One clause was highlighted in yellow: scholarship contingent on student's family maintaining good standing with foundation. Violations include criminal activity, breach of trust, moral turpitude, or actions deemed detrimental to foundation reputation. Below the highlighted section, Viktor had handwritten, "Let's not do anything we'd regret. Your sister's future depends on your choices." August 2022 marked the beginning of Rowena's quiet rebellion. She had spent 3 months documenting everything. Every threatening text, every controlling demand, every violation of her privacy. On her secret Android phone, she recorded conversations using a voice memo app that saved directly to an encrypted cloud storage account. She photographed Viktor's health tracking spreadsheet when he left his laptop unlocked during a bathroom break. She screenshot the GPS tracking applications running on her work iPhone. She saved bank statements showing the pattern of payments. Gifts framed as generosity but functioning as chains. Most importantly, she researched Viktor's past. Using the laptop in Obsidian Noir's back office during quiet afternoon shifts, Rowena created a fake Facebook account under the name Maria Santos and began searching for Viktor's previous personal assistants. She found Jasmine Cruz in Manila, now working as a medical receptionist and posting cautiously about her life. Rowena sent a careful message. "I work for Viktor Hale. I think I'm in danger. Did he hurt you too?" 3 days passed before Jasmine responded. When she did, her message was brief and terrified. "Get out now. Document everything. He threatened to have me jailed for extortion when I tried to leave. I had to abort his baby and sign an NDA. If you have evidence, keep it safe. He destroys women like us." The correspondence with Jasmine opened floodgates. Through her, Rowena found Mei Lin in Shanghai, Ploy in Bangkok, Lin in Hanoi, each woman a previous relationship Viktor had controlled and discarded. The pattern was identical across all cases. Viktor identified vulnerable women with expired visas or financial desperation. He offered help, visa sponsorship, apartments, education funds for family members. He isolated them from friends and support systems. He monitored their movements, communications, and even menstrual cycles. When they tried to leave, he threatened deportation, arrest, or harm to their families. Every woman had signed settlements ranging from 30,000 to 80,000 dirhams in exchange for silence. But one name kept appearing with more sinister implications. Lena Kowalski, a Moldovan woman who had worked at Obsidian Noir in 2020 to 2021. According to Viktor's personnel file that Rowena had photographed months earlier, Lena's termination was listed as medical repatriation, miscarriage. Rowena found Lena's social media account, but it had been inactive since March 2021. Her last post was a photo at Dubai Miracle Garden with the caption "Grateful for New Beginnings." Then nothing. Rowena sent messages to the account, no response. She found Lena's sister's profile and sent a careful inquiry. The sister's response chilled Rowena's blood. "My sister is alive but broken. She had a miscarriage after her employer beat her. She's too traumatized to speak about Dubai. Please don't contact us again." By September, Rowena knew she had to act. Viktor's behavior was escalating dangerously. He had hired a new assistant, Angela Reyes, 21 years old, fresh from Manila, desperate for work. Rowena watched Viktor deploy the same tactics he'd used on her. The generous job offer, the visa sponsorship, the gifts, the special attention. During a private moment in the staff bathroom, Rowena pulled Angela aside. "Whatever he offers you, don't accept it. He's dangerous." Angela looked confused. "Mr. Hale has been nothing but kind. He's helping me bring my brother here for medical treatment." Rowena's heart sank. She was watching her own story repeat with a new victim, and Angela wouldn't listen, just as Rowena hadn't listened to Melissa's warnings a year earlier. On September 18, 2022, Rowena made her decision. She would release everything, the recordings, the screenshots, the testimonies from other women. But she needed insurance first, something that would protect her even if Viktor destroyed her. She spent 3 days organizing evidence into a comprehensive digital folder, 47 audio recordings organized chronologically, 234 screenshots with date stamps, bank transfer records, the personnel files of 11 previous women, and a detailed timeline document explaining Viktor's pattern. She uploaded everything to a secure cloud storage service and shared access with 3 people. Bianca, a human rights lawyer in Manila she'd contacted through a women's advocacy group, and a journalist at Gulf News who had written about migrant worker abuse. The password was simple, something Bianca would know without being told. November 12, 1998, Rowena's birthday. She recorded a final video message on September 28, sitting in her Discovery Gardens apartment, wearing a simple white t-shirt, her face bare of makeup, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. My name is Rowena Estrella. I'm 25 years old from Batangas, Philippines. I work at Obsidian Noir Nightclub in Dubai Marina. My employer is Viktor Hale. For the past year, he has controlled every aspect of my life through surveillance, financial manipulation, and threats against my family. I have documentation of everything. If I disappear, if I have an accident, if I suddenly return to the Philippines, he did it. This video is my insurance policy and my testimony. To Viktor, you taught me that power isn't about money. It's about information. And I have more on you than you ever had on me. October 1st, 2022, at 11:47 p.m. Dubai time, Rowena uploaded the videos. She used a VPN service routed through Switzerland to mask her location, posted from anonymous accounts created weeks earlier, and released the content simultaneously across Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. The main compilation video was 9 minutes long, titled The Real Face of Dubai's Luxury Nightlife: One Woman's Escape from Modern Slavery. It contained Viktor's voice admitting to tracking her. I monitor you because I care, because I love you. Is that so wrong? Footage of the surveillance apps on her phone, screenshots of his health tracking spreadsheet with her menstrual cycles documented like livestock breeding records, and her direct address to camera explaining the pattern. Within 2 hours, the video had 3,000 views, mostly from Filipino networks sharing rapidly. By 6 a.m., it had 47,000 views and was trending on UAE Twitter. By noon on October 2nd, it had 230,000 views and Gulf News had published an article, Nightclub Owner Accused of Systematic Abuse of Filipina Staff. The Filipino Embassy in Dubai issued a statement requesting investigation. Human rights organizations demanded action. Viktor's carefully constructed reputation began crumbling in real time. Viktor's response was swift and vicious. At 7:15 a.m. on October 2nd, his lawyer filed a police report at Al Bersha Police Station, accusing Rowena of theft of proprietary business information, defamation, and attempted extortion. The report claimed Rowena had demanded 100,000 dirhams to delete fabricated videos containing false allegations. By 9 a.m., Viktor had contacted Rowena's visa sponsor status, himself, and initiated cancellation proceedings. By 10 a.m., he'd sent 23 text messages to her work phone ranging from threatening legal action to pleading for her to stop this madness before you destroy us both. At 10:34 a.m., his text turned dark. You've made the biggest mistake of your life. I will destroy you. Your sister's scholarship is terminated. Immigration has been notified. You have 48 hours before I have you arrested. Rowena didn't respond. She had already packed a small backpack with essentials, withdrawn her savings and cash, and disappeared from her Discovery Gardens apartment. She checked into Marina Bay Hotel using a fake name, R. Santos, paying cash for one night, avoiding lobby cameras by entering through the service entrance she'd noticed during a previous Obsidian Noir event held at the hotel. Room 2847 became her hiding place, a space where she could monitor social media reaction, wait for her lawyer's guidance, and plan her next move. What Rowena didn't know was that Viktor had already moved beyond legal threats into something far more sinister. At 7:30 p.m. on October 3rd, a wire transfer of 15,000 dirhams left Viktor's personal account with the Memo Consulting Services. The recipient was a shell company called UAE Security Solutions Ltd, registered just 5 days earlier. The company's sole employee was Jason Lim Wei Jie, a 34-year-old Singaporean with a dishonorable discharge from the Singapore Armed Forces and a criminal record for assault. Viktor had found him through underground channels, the kind of networks where wealthy men solve problems that can't be handled through official means. The instructions were simple. Deliver a package to room 2847 at Marina Bay Hotel between 10 p.m. and 11 p.m. on October 3rd. The package contained a bottle of Chateau Margaux 2015 wine, a crystal wine glass, and a sealed medical syringe pre-filled with 150 micrograms of fentanyl dissolved in saline solution, enough to sedate an adult woman within minutes and cause respiratory failure within an hour if she entered water. Jason was told the woman was suicidal, that Viktor wanted to help her go peacefully, that this was a mercy. Jason, who needed money and had learned in the military not to ask unnecessary questions, accepted the job. At 10:45 p.m., hotel security cameras captured a man in Marina Bay Hotel staff uniform pushing a room service cart toward the service elevators. At 10:52 p.m., he knocked on room 2847. Rowena, expecting no one, checked the peephole and saw what appeared to be hotel room service. She opened the door cautiously. The man smiled professionally, said, "Compliments of the hotel management," placed the wine and glass on her desk, and left before she could protest. Rowena stared at the expensive wine, confused but not alarmed. Perhaps the hotel had seen the viral videos and wanted to show support. Perhaps it was a mistake. She didn't drink it immediately. At 11:08 p.m., Rowena's phone, the secret Android phone Viktor didn't know about, received a text from an unknown number. "Drink the wine. Make this easy." Her blood froze. Viktor had found her. The wine was poisoned. She was trapped on the 28th floor of a hotel. Her visa was canceled. Police were looking for her on false charges, and Viktor had just revealed he was willing to kill her rather than let her expose him. Rowena made a decision born from equal parts courage and desperation. She would not die quietly. She would not disappear like Lena and the others. If Viktor wanted her dead, she would make sure her death screamed his guilt to the world. Thursday, October 4th, 2022, 3:47 a.m. Marina Bay Hotel maintenance supervisor Hassan Al-Mazrui was conducting routine checks of the luxury penthouse wine cellar, a private climate-controlled room accessible only to VIP guests who rented the presidential suite. The wine cellar wasn't actually in the hotel but in the adjacent Princess Tower residential building, connected via a private corridor that linked the hotel's presidential suite to Viktor Hale's personal penthouse. Viktor maintained keys to both properties, using the arrangement to entertain guests discreetly. Hassan unlocked the cellar door and immediately smelled something wrong. Not wine, but something chemical medicinal. He flipped the lights and stopped breathing. A woman lay on the imported Italian tile floor, positioned between racks of expensive bottles. She was arranged almost artistically. Black cocktail dress perfectly smoothed, designer heels placed neatly beside her, diamond earrings catching the light, long dark hair fanned out like a halo. Her right hand clutched an empty wine glass. Next to her body was an opened bottle of Chateau Margaux, its cork resting beside it. What made Hassan's hands shake as he called 999 was how peaceful she looked, as if she had simply decided to lie down among wine bottles worth thousands of dirhams and never wake up. Dubai police emergency response arrived at 3:52 a.m., followed immediately by CID, Criminal Investigation Department. Senior Inspector Saeed Al-Hashimi took command of the scene with the efficiency Dubai's police force was known for. The victim was quickly identified through her hotel key card found in a designer clutch purse nearby. Rowena Estrella, Filipino national, age 25, registered guest in room 2847 under the name R. Santos. Inspector Al-Hashimi noted several immediate inconsistencies. First, how did a guest registered on the 28th floor end up in a private wine cellar in an adjacent building? Second, why would someone drinking expensive wine alone choose a wine cellar instead of their hotel room? Third, the complete absence of defensive wounds, signs of struggle, or distress suggested either willing participation in her death or expert staging. Forensic examiner Dr. Fatima Al-Mansouri arrived at 4:30 a.m. and began preliminary assessment. The body temperature suggested death occurred between midnight and 2 a.m. Lividity patterns indicated the woman had died in this position, not been moved post-mortem. Dr. Al-Mansouri found one crucial detail that transformed this from possible suicide to probable homicide. A fresh needle mark on the victim's left inner elbow, the injection site still slightly inflamed. This woman was injected with something within hours of death, Dr. Al-Mansouri told Inspector Al-Hashimi. We'll need full toxicology, but that needle mark wasn't self-administered. Wrong angle, wrong location for someone injecting themselves. By 6 a.m., Inspector Al-Hashimi had assembled the basic timeline. Security footage showed Rowena checking into Marina Bay Hotel at 9:47 p.m. on October 3rd using cash and a passport under R. Santos, clearly fake based on the crude quality of the document scan. At 10:45 p.m., cameras captured an Asian male in hotel staff uniform pushing a room service cart toward the service elevators. At 11:23 p.m., Rowena appeared on the corridor camera outside room 2847, looking unsteady, walking toward the emergency stairwell instead of the elevator. The stairwell led to the connector corridor between hotel and residential tower, a route that required key card access. Somehow Rowena or someone with her had accessed that restricted area. The critical footage was missing. The corridor connecting hotel to residential tower experienced a technical malfunction between 11:30 p.m. and 1 a.m., exactly the window when Rowena would have traveled from her room to the wine cellar. The security company managing the system confirmed the camera was disabled via remote administrative override, a code that only building management and residents with system access possessed. Viktor Hale, as owner of the penthouse, had full administrative access to the security system. Inspector Al-Hashimi pulled Rowena's phone records from the telecommunications provider, standard procedure in suspicious death investigations. Her official iPhone, registered to Obsidian Noir company account, showed 23 missed calls from Viktor Hale on October 2nd, followed by increasingly threatening text messages. But more interesting was a second phone number associated with Rowena's passport, an Android device she'd purchased in July. That phone's last activity was 11:34 p.m. on October 3rd. A text message received from an unknown number stating, "Drink the wine. Make this easy." Rowena had replied at 11:36 p.m., "I already did. Tell Victor he won." Then the phone went dark. The toxicology report from Dubai Police Forensic Laboratory arrived at 2 p.m. on October 4th, remarkably fast due to the high-profile nature of the case and the viral videos that had made Rowena's name recognizable. Blood analysis revealed fentanyl concentration of 150 micrograms, a dose sufficient to cause severe respiratory depression and death, especially if the victim was in a confined space or entered water. But there was no water in the wine cellar. The cause of death was more complex. Fentanyl-induced respiratory failure combined with positional asphyxiation. Rowena had been injected with fentanyl, became sedated, and was positioned in a way that compressed her diaphragm while unconscious, preventing adequate breathing. Time of death: approximately 12:30 a.m., October 4th. Inspector Al-Hashimi requested immediate interrogation of Viktor Hale. At 5:30 p.m. on October 4th, Victor arrived at Al-Bersha police station with his lawyer, Martin Coe from the prestigious firm Al-Tamimi and Company. Victor was composed, dressed in an expensive suit, expressing appropriate distress at news of Rowena's death. His statement was carefully constructed. Rowena was a troubled employee who fabricated abuse. Allegations after I confronted her about theft. I filed a police report on October 2nd documenting her extortion attempt. I last saw her on September 30th when she stopped reporting to work. I had no knowledge of her hotel location and certainly had nothing to do with her tragic death. If anything, I think the guilt of her false accusations drove her to suicide. But Victor's alibi had holes. He claimed to be at his Princess Tower penthouse alone all evening on October 3rd, working on business matters. Building security showed him entering at 8 p.m. and not leaving until 9 a.m. on October 4th. However, the wine cellar where Rowena died was accessible from his penthouse via private elevator. He could have moved within the building without appearing on external cameras. More damning was the financial record. The 15,000 dirham transfer to UAE Security Solutions Ltd. on October 3rd at 7:30 p.m., just hours before Rowena's death. Inspector Al-Hashimi executed a search warrant on Viktor's penthouse on October 6th. What they found was a surveillance enthusiast's dream and a prosecutor's goldmine. Viktor's home office contained a server rack running 24/7, storing footage from not just his building's security cameras but also from hidden cameras installed throughout Obsidian Noir, including private VIP rooms. More disturbing was a laptop with open folders containing personal files on 12 women, each folder named with first name and nationality: Rowena_Philippines, Jasmine_Philippines, May_Anna, Lena_Moldova. Each folder contained photographs, financial records, medical information, and detailed notes tracking their menstrual cycles, social contacts, and daily movements. The forensic IT specialist, Mohammed Al-Kabi, discovered Viktor's laptop contained FlexiSpy administrator account for Rowena's iPhone, confirming he had monitored her communications for months. But most damning was a Telegram account with deleted messages that Mohammed recovered using forensic software. The messages between Viktor and a contact saved as security revealed the plot. Found her. MBS Hotel. Room 2847. Package will be delivered 10:45 p.m. Is it done? Confirm completion. The last message timestamp, 11:47 p.m. October 3rd. On October 8th, Dubai police arrested Jason Lim Wei Jie at his apartment in International City. Jason broke during interrogation, his military discipline crumbling when faced with potential death penalty under UAE law for murder. He confessed everything. Viktor had contacted him via Telegram on October 1st, offered 15,000 dirhams to deliver a package to a suicidal woman who wanted to die peacefully, provided hotel staff uniforms stolen from Marina Bay Hotel laundry services, gave him the fentanyl syringe acquired through Viktor's pharmaceutical connections, and instructed him on how to disable the corridor security camera using the administrative override code Viktor provided. Jason's testimony provided the final pieces. He had injected Rowena after delivering the wine, following Viktor's instructions to make sure she drinks it and administer the medication to help her sleep. Rowena had been conscious but sedated when Jason left her in room 2847 at 11:10 p.m. Viktor himself had then used his building access to move Rowena's semi-conscious body from the hotel through the connector corridor to his wine cellar, staging the scene to look like she had drunk herself into accidental overdose. The peaceful positioning, the expensive wine, the lack of struggle, all carefully constructed theater designed to suggest tragic suicide by a troubled woman. By October 15th, Dubai public prosecution had enough evidence to charge Viktor Hale with premeditated murder under UAE Federal Law No. 3 of 1987, which carried potential death penalty. Jason Lim was charged as accomplice to murder. Viktor's lawyer immediately began negotiating, but Inspector Al-Hashimi had one more revelation that would seal Viktor's fate. Rowena's final video, recorded October 3rd at 10:58 p.m. and automatically uploaded to her cloud storage, showed her drinking the wine, knowing it was poisoned, narrating her own murder. "I'm drinking Viktor's wine now. I know what's in it. If you're watching this, I'm dead, and Viktor Hale killed me. This is my testimony from beyond the grave." The trial of Viktor Hale began on a Tuesday morning when Dubai's temperature had already reached 32 degrees Celsius by 9 a.m. and the city's glass towers reflected harsh sunlight across Sheikh Zayed Road. Courtroom 4, reserved for high-profile criminal cases, filled with international media, human rights observers, representatives from the Philippine embassy, and dozens of Filipina domestic workers who had taken unauthorized leave from their employers to witness justice for one of their own. Security was unprecedented. Metal detectors, bag searches, armed guards, because Viktor Hale wasn't just defending himself against murder charges. He was defending an entire system that relied on the silence of vulnerable women. The charges against Viktor Hale were read in Arabic and English by Court Registrar Ahmed Al-Suwaidi at 9:15 a.m. First-degree premeditated murder under UAE Federal Penal Code Article 332, carrying a potential death penalty. Conspiracy to commit murder under Article 339. Unlawful surveillance and violation of privacy under Cybercrime Law No. 5 of 2012. Human trafficking for sexual exploitation under Federal Law No. 51 of 2006. The prosecution team, led by Chief Public Prosecutor Nasser Al-Shamsi, had spent 4 months building a case so comprehensive that Viktor's initial lawyer, Martin Coe, had withdrawn from representation, citing irreconcilable differences with client's defense strategy. Viktor now sat beside his new counsel, British QC Roderick Tan, flown in from London at a cost of £50,000 for 3 weeks' work. Judge Jasm bin Saeed, a 58-year-old Emirati jurist known for harsh sentences in exploitation cases, presided with the gravity the case demanded. UAE criminal courts don't use juries. Verdict and sentencing are judicial decisions, which meant Viktor's fate rested entirely with this one man who had publicly stated in previous cases that he viewed crimes against domestic workers as attacks on the UAE's reputation for protecting vulnerable populations. Viktor's best chance had been a jury he could charm or confuse. Instead, he faced a judge who had reviewed every piece of evidence before trial began and whose opening statement made his perspective clear. This court will not tolerate the exploitation of foreign workers, regardless of the defendant's wealth or nationality. Justice in the UAE is blind to privilege. The prosecution's case began with establishing pattern and predation. Chief Prosecutor Al-Shamsi called Melissa Torres as the first witness. Melissa, who had resigned from Obsidian Noir in November 2022 and returned to Manila, testified via video link on March 7, describing her role processing 12 personal assistants between 2015 and 2022. Mr. Hale had specific requirements, Melissa stated, her voice steady despite visible nervousness. Young, Southeast Asian, financially desperate, visa problems. He would ask me to identify women who needed help, then he would offer solutions that created dependency. I processed termination payments ranging from 30,000 to 80,000 dirhams for women who signed NDAs promising never to speak about their relationship with Viktor. The prosecution presented Exhibit A, a spreadsheet recovered from Viktor's laptop titled Personnel Underscore Inactive, XLSX. The document contained 12 rows, each with a woman's name, nationality, hire date, relationship duration, termination date, NDA amount, and a notes column. The notes were damning. Mei Lin relocated Shanghai. 2 independent, settled 30K. Jasmine Cruz pregnancy claim, threatened legal action, settled 50K plus medical. Lena Kowalski miscarriage complications, medical repatriation, paid 65K, high risk of future claims. The final entry, added September 2022, read, Rowena Estrella, major threat, viral exposure, legal action required, permanent solution necessary. Former victims testified throughout March 8th and 9th. Jasmine Cruz appeared via video from Manila, describing how Viktor had pressured her to abort his child in 2019, threatened her with prostitution charges if she refused, and paid her 50,000 dirhams to return to the Philippines and sign documents stating she had fabricated the pregnancy. He told me Filipinas were known for baby-trapping wealthy men, Jasmine testified, tears streaming down her face. He said UAE authorities would believe him over me because I was poor and illegal. I had the abortion alone in Manila and have never been able to conceive again. Ploy Setong testified from Bangkok via video on March 10th. She described Viktor installing tracking software on her phone in 2017, showing up at locations she hadn't told him about, and sending anonymous emails containing photos of her family in Thailand. He told me he had connections with Thai police, Ploy stated. He said if I ever spoke about him, my father's business would be destroyed through tax investigations. I lived in fear for 2 years after leaving Dubai. When I saw Rowena's videos, I finally felt brave enough to speak. The prosecution's technical evidence came through Dubai Police Cybercrime Division Specialist Mohammed Al-Kabi, who testified March 11th about Viktor's surveillance infrastructure. Al-Kabi demonstrated how FlexiSpy software on Rowena's iPhone gave Viktor complete access to her digital life, Every text message, email, photo, GPS location, and even ambient audio recording capability. Mr. Hale accessed this application 847 times between March and September 2022, Al-Kabi explained, showing login records. He could activate Ms. Estrella's microphone remotely and record conversations without her knowledge. We found audio files on his laptop containing private discussions she had with her sister in the Philippines about leaving Dubai. The health tracking spreadsheet was presented as Exhibit D on March 12. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a British forensic psychologist specializing in coercive control, explained its significance. This document shows Mr. Hale tracked Ms. Estrella's menstrual cycles with the precision of a medical professional monitoring a patient. He noted estimated ovulation dates, marked high-risk days, and documented his sexual encounters with her in correlation to her fertility window. This level of reproductive control is a hallmark of intimate partner violence designed to prevent pregnancy that might complicate his ability to discard her. Jason Lim Wei Jie testified March 13 and 14. Having pleaded guilty to manslaughter in exchange for a reduced 15-year sentence and cooperation against Viktor. Jason's testimony provided the murder timeline in excruciating detail. Viktor had contacted him October 1 via telegram using an encrypted account. He said he needed help with a personal matter. A woman who was suicidal and wanted to end her life peacefully, Jason explained. He offered me 15,000 dirhams to deliver wine and medication to her hotel room, ensure she drank it, and help her go to sleep. He told me it was a mercy killing, that she was suffering and had asked for his help. Jason described receiving the fentanyl syringe from Viktor on October 3 at 6 p.m. in the parking garage of Princess Tower. Viktor had provided a hotel staff uniform stolen from Marina Bay Hotel's laundry service, the exact room number where Rowena was hiding, and a security override code to disable hallway cameras. He told me to inject her after she drank the wine, wait until she fell asleep, then leave through the service exit, Jason testified. He said he would handle the rest. The prosecution presented phone records showing Viktor's telegram messages to Jason. October 3, 9:15 p.m. Package ready? October 3, 10:30 p.m. Is it done? October 3, 11:47 p.m. Confirm completion. Payment transferred. The corresponding bank transfer of 15,000 dirhams to Jason's account was timestamped October 3, 11:52 p.m. just as Rowena was dying in Viktor's wine cellar. The defense strategy, revealed during Roderick Tan's opening statement March 15, attempted to frame Rowena as a sophisticated extortionist who had manipulated Viktor and staged her own death as the ultimate revenge. Mr. Hale is not a murderer, Tan argued. He is a successful businessman who made the mistake of becoming romantically involved with an employee. When that relationship ended, Ms. Estrella manufactured elaborate evidence, made false accusations, and when faced with criminal consequences for extortion, chose to take her own life in a manner that would frame Mr. Hale for murder. Viktor testified in his own defense March 16 and 17, a decision that stunned legal observers and likely sealed his fate. Dressed in a tailored dark suit, speaking in his polished British accent, Viktor attempted to portray himself as the victim. I cared deeply about Rowena, he stated. I helped her achieve legal status, supported her family financially, gave her opportunities she never would have had in the Philippines. Yes, we had an affair. I'm not proud of betraying my marriage vows. But when Rowena demanded 100,000 dirhams to delete her videos, I realized she had been using me all along. Chief Prosecutor Al-Shamsi's cross-examination was devastating. Mr. Hale, you claim Ms. Estrella extorted you, yet you filed a police report only after she released videos exposing your abuse. Why didn't you report this alleged extortion when it occurred? Viktor faltered. I thought I could handle it privately. Al-Shamsi pressed. You tracked Ms. Estrella's location 847 times in 6 months. Is this normal employer behavior? Viktor, I was concerned for her safety. Al-Shamsi, you documented her menstrual cycles. Why? Viktor, that's taken out of context. Al-Shamsi, you paid Jason Lim 15,000 dirhams on October 3. For what service? Viktor, consulting work. Al-Shamsi. What kind of consulting requires delivering fentanyl to a woman's hotel room? Silence. The trial's climax came March 18th when the prosecution played Rowena's final video, recorded October 3rd, 10:58 p.m. in room 2847. The courtroom fell silent as Rowena's face filled the screen, her voice calm and clear. My name is Rowena Estrella. I'm recording this at 10:58 p.m. on October 3rd, 2022. I'm in Marina Bay Hotel, room 2847. Viktor Hale has found me. A man just delivered wine to my room with a message to drink it. I know it's poisoned. I'm drinking it anyway because if I don't, Viktor will find another way to kill me, and that way might hurt others. By drinking this willingly, I control how I die, and I make sure my death convicts him. To Viktor, you thought you owned my life. Now you'll spend yours in prison because I own my death. To Bianca, I love you. Finish school. Tell my story. To everyone watching, this is what happens when we let powerful men treat poor women as disposable. I'm Rowena Estrella from Batangas, Philippines, and I refuse to disappear silently. Several observers in the gallery wept. Judge Jasm remained impassive, but his subsequent questioning of Viktor was unforgiving. Mr. Hale, did you send someone to Ms. Estrella's hotel room on October 3rd? Viktor, no, Your Honor. Judge, did you provide fentanyl to Jason Lim? Viktor, no, Your Honor. Judge, did you transfer 15,000 dirhams to Mr. Lim for any purpose related to Ms. Estrella? Viktor, that payment was unrelated. Judge, then you contest Mr. Lim's testimony that you hired him to drug Ms. Estrella? Viktor, he's lying to reduce his sentence. Judge, so this court should believe you. A man who monitored his employees' menstrual cycles and maintained files on 12 previous women, over a witness who pleaded guilty and provided evidence corroborating the prosecution's timeline? Viktor had no response. Closing arguments concluded March 20th. Chief Prosecutor Al-Shamsi. Viktor Hale is a predator who operated with impunity for 7 years, exploiting vulnerable women and silencing them through intimidation and money. When Rowena Estrella exposed him, he had her murdered and staged it as suicide. The evidence is overwhelming: digital surveillance, financial records, witness testimony, and Rowena's own words predicting her murder. This court must send a message that the UAE does not tolerate such evil, regardless of the perpetrator's wealth. Defense counsel Roderick Tan. The prosecution has constructed an elaborate narrative, but lacks definitive proof Mr. Hale personally killed Ms. Estrella. At most, this is a case of terrible judgment in hiring Mr. Lim, not premeditated murder. We ask for acquittal or, at minimum, conviction on lesser charges. Judge Jasm announced he would deliberate and render verdict within 10 days. The courtroom emptied. Viktor returned to Alawar Central Jail where he'd been held since October 2022, and the world waited. Judge Jasm bin Saeed delivered his verdict at 10 a.m. in a packed courtroom where Philippine ambassador to the UAE Maria Teresa Dizon sat in the front row beside Bianca Estrella, now 21 years old, who had flown from Manila specifically to witness justice for her sister. The judge's voice was firm and clear as he read from a 47-page judgment that methodically dismantled Viktor's defense and affirmed every element of the prosecution's case. Having reviewed all evidence, testimony, and legal arguments, this court finds defendant Viktor Hale guilty of premeditated murder under UAE Penal Code Article 332. The evidence demonstrates beyond any reasonable doubt that Mr. Hale planned and executed Ms. Rowena Estrella's killing through an intermediary, staged the scene to simulate suicide, and attempted to evade justice through deception and witness intimidation. Viktor's expression remained blank, his lawyer immediately requesting appeal rights, but Judge Jasm wasn't finished. Furthermore, this court finds Mr. Hale guilty of human trafficking for sexual exploitation, systematic violation of privacy laws, and conspiracy to commit murder. The pattern of abuse spanning 7 years and 12 victims represents not isolated criminal acts but a calculated system of predation enabled by wealth and exploiting power imbalances inherent in sponsorship-based employment systems. The judge paused, looking directly at Viktor. Your crimes are aggravated by your position of authority, the vulnerability of your victims, and the complete absence of remorse. This court sentences you to death by execution under Article 332. The courtroom erupted, Filipina observers crying in relief, media scrambling to file reports, human rights advocates embracing. Bianca Estrella collapsed into Ambassador Dizon's arms, her body shaking with sobs that represented not just grief but validation. Her sister had told the truth, and the world had finally listened. Viktor's lawyer immediately filed appeal paperwork. UAE law requires automatic appeal of death sentences to the Supreme Court, but the conviction stood. Viktor was led back to Al Awar Central Jail in handcuffs, his face finally showing emotion. Rage mixed with disbelief that his money hadn't purchased freedom. The sentencing hearing, held April 10, 2023, allowed victim impact statements that would be considered by the Supreme Court during mandatory death penalty review. Bianca Estrella spoke first, reading from prepared remarks in unsteady English. My sister Rowena was supposed to come home in 2024. We were going to start a small business together, maybe a laundry service in Batangas. Instead, I came to Dubai to collect her body. Viktor Hale didn't just kill my sister. He killed our future, our family's hope, and our belief that working abroad meant opportunity rather than danger. But Rowena was smart. Even in death, she made sure he couldn't escape. I ask this court, let the death sentence stand. Let every man who thinks Filipina workers are disposable know there are consequences. Rowena Estrella's statement was read by the Philippine Embassy's labor attaché since Elena's health had deteriorated severely after Rowena's death. My daughter went to Dubai to escape poverty. She came home in a coffin. Viktor Hale stole my baby, my hope, my reason for living. Every morning I wake up and remember she's gone. Every evening I cry myself to sleep. There is no sentence long enough, no punishment severe enough for what he took from me. But I thank God and this court for believing Rowena. She died fighting. Let her victory be complete. Jasmine Cruz testified via video. Viktor Hale forced me to abort his child and threatened to destroy my life if I ever spoke. For 4 years I lived in silence and shame. Rowena gave me courage to speak. Because of her sacrifice, I can finally heal. I beg this court, don't let her death be in vain. Execute him. Ploy Setong. He terrorized me for 2 years after I left Dubai. Rowena's videos freed me from fear. Honor her memory with justice. Mei Lin, Lin Nguyen, and for other former victims submitted written statements describing years of psychological torment, financial manipulation, and threats that continued long after they had left Viktor's employment. Judge's final sentencing statement addressed the broader implications. This case reveals systemic vulnerabilities in how foreign workers are protected in the UAE. While this defendant's guilt is established beyond doubt, his crimes were enabled by legal structures that tied visa status to employer sponsorship, creating conditions where workers feared reporting abuse. This court recommends legislative review of sponsorship systems, mandatory independent oversight of employer-employee relationships, and stronger protections for workers who report misconduct. Viktor's appeals consumed 18 months. His legal team, now funded by liquidating his business assets since his family had disowned him and frozen his trust fund access, argued the death penalty was disproportionate, that evidence had been improperly obtained, that Jason Lim's testimony was unreliable. The UAE Supreme Court rejected every argument in a decision issued September 15, 2024. The final paragraph was unequivocal. The evidence supports not only guilt but demonstrates exceptional cruelty warranting. Capital punishment. The defendant showed no mercy to his victim. This court extends none to him. Death sentence confirmed. Execution to be scheduled following exhaustion of all appeals. Viktor Hale's final appeal to the UAE president for clemency was denied December 2024. Execution date was set for March 4, 2025, exactly 2 years after the trial verdict. Under UAE law, executions are typically by firing squad, though hanging is also authorized. Viktor would be the first Western national executed in the UAE in 15 years, a decision that sparked international debate about capital punishment, but which Emirati authorities defended firmly. Ministry of Justice spokesperson stated, "The UAE's legal system applies equally regardless of nationality or wealth. Mr. Hale received every due process protection. His crimes warranted the maximum penalty, and that penalty will be enforced." Meanwhile, Viktor's Obsidian Noir empire collapsed spectacularly. The Dubai nightclub closed permanently in November 2022 after authorities revoked its liquor license and entertainment permits. The property was sold at auction for 8 million dirhams, half its assessed value, with proceeds placed in escrow for victim compensation. Viktor's penthouse at Princess Tower was seized by Dubai courts and auctioned for 12 million dirhams. His luxury car collection, a Lamborghini Aventador, 2 Ferraris, and a Bentley Continental sold for combined 3 million dirhams. Total asset recovery reached 28 million dirhams, distributed to 14 victims and their families according to a formula based on duration of abuse and severity of harm. Bianca Estrella received 5 million dirhams, approximately 68 million pesos, which she used to establish the Rowena Estrella Foundation in Manila, registered as a non-profit in January 2024. The foundation's mission: protecting overseas Filipino workers from exploitation through legal assistance, emergency repatriation, and advocacy for stronger labor protections. By December 2024, the foundation had assisted 47 OFWs in Dubai, Saudi Arabia, and Hong Kong with legal representation in abuse cases, repatriated 12 women from dangerous situations, and successfully lobbied the Philippine Congress for mandatory pre-departure orientation, including training on recognizing coercive relationships and documenting abuse. Bianca herself became an outspoken advocate, testifying before the Philippine Senate Committee on Migrant Workers in May 2024 and presenting legislation named Rowena's Law, requiring Philippine embassies to conduct quarterly welfare checks with OFW employers, creating a confidential hotline for abuse reporting, and establishing a rapid response legal fund. The law passed unanimously in August 2024. At the signing ceremony, Senator Risa Hontiveros stated, "Rowena Estrella died 8,000 kilometers from home, but her courage changed laws that will protect millions of Filipinos working abroad." That is the definition of heroism. UAE authorities, stung by international criticism of how Viktor operated undetected for 7 years, implemented sweeping reforms. The Ministry of Human Resources and Emiratization announced in June 2023 new regulations allowing foreign workers to transfer employment sponsorship without current employer permission, eliminating the power imbalance that had trapped Rowena. Employers found guilty of confiscating worker passports, a common abuse tactic, now faced mandatory jail time and deportation if foreign nationals. Electronic monitoring of sponsorship-based employment required employers to file quarterly reports on worker welfare, subject to random inspection. Jason Lim Wei Jia began serving his 15-year sentence at Alawar Central Jail in a separate block from Viktor to prevent intimidation. Prison records showed Jason participated in rehabilitation programs, expressed remorse in letters to Bianca, which she never answered, and assisted authorities investigating the underground network through which Viktor obtained unregistered fentanyl. Jason's cooperation led to the arrest of a Pakistani doctor who had been selling prescription medications illegally and revealed that Viktor had purchased fentanyl doses on 3 previous occasions in 2020 and 2021, raising horrifying questions about whether other women's deaths attributed to accidents or suicides had actually been murders. Clarissa Vanderbilt Hale, Viktor's estranged wife, filed for divorce in New York courts in November 2022, waiving all claims to Viktor's assets and issuing a public statement. "I was complicit through willful ignorance. I knew Viktor had affairs. I didn't know he was a predator and a murderer. I will spend the rest of my life supporting organizations that protect vulnerable women from men like my ex-husband." Clarissa donated $2 million to the International Domestic Workers Federation and became a trustee of the Rowena Estrella Foundation's U.S. fundraising arm. Viktor Hale's family severed all ties. His father, Christopher Hale, released a statement in January 2023. "My son's actions are indefensible and unforgivable. Our family extends deepest condolences to Ms. Estrella's family and all victims of Viktor's abuse. We will not oppose the court sentence. Some crimes sever even blood bonds." Christopher died of a heart attack in September 2023. Friends said he never recovered from the shame. Viktor's mother, Amelie Hale, visited him once at Allower Central Jail in December 2022, a meeting that lasted 15 minutes and ended with Amelie leaving in tears. She never returned and refused all interview requests. Rowena Estrella's health deteriorated after Rowena's death. The back surgery Viktor had paid for in 2022 couldn't repair the emotional damage. She died in her sleep in August 2024, aged 54, from what doctors listed as cardiac arrest, but what Bianca knew was a broken heart that never healed. Elena was buried beside Rowena at Lipa City Cemetery in a ceremony attended by 300 people. Friends, neighbors, overseas workers Rowena's story had inspired, and representatives from labor rights organizations. The headstone, paid for by the Rowena Estrella Foundation, reads, Rowena Estrella, 1970 to 2024. Devoted mother who sacrificed everything so her daughters could dream. Reunited with her beloved Rowena. Rowena's grave became a pilgrimage site. Every November 12th, her birthday, hundreds gather to leave flowers, candles, and handwritten notes from Filipinas working abroad. Your courage saved my life. I escaped my abusive employer because you showed me how to document evidence. Thank you for fighting back. Because of you, I reported my boss and won my case. You didn't die in vain. 8. We remember. We fight back. The municipality of Lipa designated November 12th as Rowena Estrella Day for OFW rights, hosting annual symposiums on worker protection. International media coverage transformed Rowena's story into a watershed moment. Netflix released a documentary in October 2024, Obsidian Noir, the Rowena Estrella case, featuring interviews with Bianca, surviving victims, investigators, and legal experts. The documentary was viewed by 47 million accounts in its first month and earned an Emmy nomination for Outstanding Investigative Documentary. Academic institutions added the case to curricula. Harvard Law School taught it in their human trafficking course, Cambridge University included it in gender studies, and universities across the Philippines used it too.